Doctor Who has a plethora of unofficial and canon doctors. Just take a look at the past couple of years and we've seen doctors like the War Doctor, Fugitive Doctor, and other prehartnell doctors being introduced. However, one of these doctors has just made their official canon TV appearance in the show, and that doctor is Richard E. Grant's Shalka Doctor. Cast your minds back all the way to 2003 when Doctor Who wasn't on the air. Richard E. Grant's Shalka Doctor was the official 9th Doctor before Christopher Eccleston came in to take his spot. Now skip all the way to 2024 to the new series of Doctor Who, and we've seen our first official appearance of this Doctor. The BBC, for whatever reason, have a massive stick up their bum for this clip in particular. Usually it's completely fine, so they won't allow me to show this in full with audio, so you've just got this instead. When Ncutu is delivering this speech to the character Rogue, we see the Doctor's faces circling around him. And one of the faces we see is Richard E. Grant's Shalka Doctor. But who is the Shalka Doctor and how does this make sense? Well, in today's video we're going to be finding all about the Shalka Doctor. This incarnation of the Doctor has pretty humble beginnings. The Doctor ended up retiring to Gallifrey where he fell in love with the Lord President's daughter. However, an alien race came to Gallifrey and killed nearly every Time Lord, including the Doctor's love, who alone was truly dead. The majority of the information we know about the Shalka Doctor comes from the story in 2003, The Scream of the Shalka. We know that after the Time Lords retreated into the Matrix, they sent the 9th Doctor and the Master, now in android form, on dangerous missions. First sending them to Lynette, a small Lancashire town where the Doctor met a barmaid, Alison. In the story The Scream of the Shalka, they ended up defeating the Shalka, and Alison left with the Doctor in his TARDIS. The Doctor, the Master, and Alison shared at least one more adventure together involving vampires. What I do find interesting about this incarnation is that the Doctor actually built the Master's android body, and the Master was bound inside the TARDIS, and the Doctor was sent to work by his unseen superiors. I do like the dynamic that is created here, and I like the lifted sort of elements about Gallifrey being destroyed, which can later be applied to the Time War. We also do know about the Doctor, the Master, and Alison's vampire adventure. The Doctor, the Master, and Alison materialized in a dark cavern. Upon emerging from the TARDIS, the Doctor and Alison were immediately bombarded by a psychic force that caused them to relieve traumatic emotional memories. The Doctor, with the aid of the Master, broke free of the illusions and returned to the TARDIS, where he discovered that the intangible force is feeding off of Alison's emotions. Upon tapping into the sonic resonance of the cavern, the Doctor realized that Alison was somehow experiencing the Master's memories. Without hesitation, the Doctor switched off the Master's body in an attempt to save Alison, but this only redoubled the vampire's efforts to drain her body. Eventually, the Doctor used the TARDIS's telepathic circuits to drown the entity with a surge of the Master's hatred and evil memories, and the entity exploded into nothingness. From the audio Shadow of a Doubt, we also know about a possible third adventure with the Shalka Doctor. Daughter of Mine was visited several times by an incarnation of the Doctor she described as a tall white aristocrat while imprisoned in a mirror. For people that might have forgotten, Daughter of Mine was one of the family of blood from Doctor Who Series 3. The Scream of the Shalka definitely isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I find it really interesting that Russell T Davies has reintroduced the Shalka Doctor, seeing as officially the Shalka Doctor was the 9th Doctor before Christopher Eccleston. So, how does the Shalka Doctor actually fit into the Doctor Who timeline? It makes most sense for the Shalka Doctor to be a prehartnell Doctor, just like the Fugitive Doctors and the Brain of Morbius Doctor. To me, it doesn't make sense for the Shalka Doctor to be a future incarnation of the Doctor or even a numbered Doctor, because otherwise the Valeyard would also appear in this array of Doctors' faces. I've also seen some people suggest that instead of Richard E. Grant being the Shalka Doctor, because the Shalka Doctor was the 9th Doctor, which of course Christopher Eccleston is, maybe Richard E. Grant's Doctor is actually the Valeyard. I think this idea equally works. The Shalka Doctor doesn't have to be the Shalka Doctor, he could be the Valeyard. Richard E. Grant's Shalka Doctor is just a bit darker just in general, so I feel like this would make even more sense as to why, because he is the Valeyard. The Valeyard is the darker parts of the Doctor, and it just makes sense. It's also just another explanation for why Richard E. Grant's Doctor has suddenly appeared.
Your nature, somewhere between your 12th and final incarnation. And I may say you do not improve with age.
Even the theory that Richard E. Grant's Shalka Doctor is a prehartnell Doctor doesn't particularly work because of the destruction of Gallifrey, where the Time Lords then go back into the Matrix. To me, it doesn't work. A lot of stuff has to be tweaked, but that idea and the Valeyard idea are the two that really stick out to me as the most plausible ideas for Richard E. Grant's Doctor. Maybe he's a splinter Doctor or a Doctor from a different dimension, maybe he's a Doctor from a different universe. Who genuinely knows at this point? These are just theories, and you, the audience, can choose to believe whatever you want to believe. But I'm going to be choosing to believe that this Doctor is a prehartnell Doctor. It just works best, and you know, like Chibnall did, no questions asked. But what are your thoughts? Where does the Shalka Doctor come into? And who is the Shalka Doctor? Because we really don't know too much about it. Please comment down below your opinions. But I've been your host Samuel, and I'll catch you in the next Doctor Who related video.